Hi, everybody, and thank you for watching and subscribing and liking this podcast. um, my name is Kris, and this is Obsidian Podcast. Um, it is a new year, and I'm very, very excited. There's a lot of new things on the horizon, a lot of things that I'm very excited about, a lot of new goals. Um, and I'm really stoked to just share them with you on this podcast. Um, this week, this is the first podcast of the new year. And what better way to start off this podcast than to start, talking about my 2020 making goals and doing a Q&A. This is episode 9 of the podcast, so a Q&A would be really fun. So let's get started. My 2020 goals for this year, making goals for this year, is to finally finish my flax sweater. I tried really hard to finish it before the new year, but y'all, doing 2 sleeves is like knitting 2 really long pairs of socks. So it's been like really hard for me to do. Um, yeah, and also finishing the socks that I'm making for my husband Jordan, the basic ribbed socks. They're coming along. I just turned the heel and started. I'm gonna start doing the gusset and all of that. So sock number 1 is on its way to being finished. Probably gonna adjust this. Pardon moi. There we go. Um, and let's see. Other making things that I would like to do for the new year is I want to have like staple baby doll tunic-y dresses in my closet that I can wear all year long, whether it's in the winter or in the spring and summer, that I can literally throw on with a pair of leggings because I have a lot of them, and I usually only wear them when I am going to band practice and playing drums or doing yoga or lounging around the house. And I would like to utilize my really comfortable leggings for once, and wear something that is just not too restrictive when I'm at work. And just like, I want to just live a more comfortable life. So, sewing a bunch of new dresses in multiple colors in a cut that I enjoy is one of my goals. I really want to have at least a 50% handmade closet, and cut out a lot of my buying from big box stores. And that means, like, also aside from making things, I will be buying things from local makers and designers, which is really cool, especially local makers and designers that are also size inclusive, because I want to be able to recommend the clothing that I purchase to people in my community and friends that I have who are plus size or bigger, who should have access to really fucking cute clothing. So one of my favorite designers here in Portland, who I've yet to buy something from, is Allihalla. I hope I'm saying that right. She's this amazing local designer, and she makes lingerie, swimsuits, and just like bike shorts. Sorry if you hear my dog chewing her butt in the background, apologies. Bike shorts, uh, overalls. Did I say that? I don't know. She just makes everything, and it is all size inclusive. So I will link her Instagram below. I recommend that you follow her and also just throw all of your money at her, because she is one of the few designers in Portland doing really great things. Yeah, another part of my 2020 goal is to make a pair of jeans. I love wearing denim. It's really fun for me. Everybody wears denim. But I also just don't want to just keep buying $30 pairs of jeans that like fall apart after a year of wearing them. So I will either buy them from local makers, or I will attempt to make a pair of jeans for myself. And I know that's a really ambitious thing. Denim is really hard. I've never made a pair of pants before. But I think it'll be a really good challenge for me going into the new year to up my sewing skills. I have some sewing skills under my belt, but they could be improved before I hit that denim mark. So maybe at the end of the year, once I've made a couple of small projects, I will be able to attempt and successfully make a pair of jeans for myself. Yeah, and so that's my current making goals. Oh, and also I want to make a cardigan. I would really love to have multiple knitted cardigans that I can wear with overalls. I think Andrea Mowry posted something on Instagram a few days ago where she was wearing like this really cute yellow cardigan under a pair of overalls, and I'm like, that is a look. I like that a lot, so I want to make that happen for myself too, which means more sweater knitting. So we'll see how that goes. But that's why they're goals, and they're very loose-ended. I should mention that these 2020 goals are also consistent with McKenzie, who is also M to the Third on YouTube. She's hosting a year-long make-along, and I'm really excited. I've never done a make-along before, so I'm really looking forward to being in community with people who are part of the make-along. The Slack channel that she created for her podcast is absolutely amazing, and I enjoy being a part of it and engaging in chats in there. And so there's this little hashtag channel that is the make-along, and I'm really excited to get started. So those are my 2020 making goals for that I'm also including in the 2020 make-along that McKenzie is hosting. Thank you, McKenzie. Anyways, let's move on to the Q&A. I want to start with just a question that someone had asked a while ago when I was talking about purchasing some Oregon-grown sage harvested by an indigenous person here that I had purchased instead of buying white sage, and talking about the difference between cultural appropriation and cultural appreciation, and how it's really important to, if you are a person who does spiritual practice like myself, it's important to just understand the impact of your spirituality when it comes to using indigenous medicine for your practice. And I say medicine because that's what it is. If you want to know more about that, you can Google white sage and why it's endangered. But I'm just going to go into a small bit of it. So, for example, I'm using white sage as an example because I talked about it in my previous podcast. So I stopped buying white sage a while ago, unless it was gifted to me by someone, like a friend, or gifted to me by, the last bit of white sage I have was gifted to me by a friend who is indigenous, and got it from an indigenous ceremony that they attend regularly. So it is special. White sage is very sacred. Urban Outfitters should not be selling it. White people should not be selling it because it is not a part of your spiritual practice. It is an indigenous medicine, and part of indigenous ceremony and practice. And so the fact that white folks sell them, Urban Outfitters sells witch kits, I think was a thing. That's cultural appropriation. It is. Urban Outfitters is not a cultural entity. They are not indigenous. Therefore, they should not be selling something that does not belong to them. That is a cultural appropriation, is doing that. And the same goes for white people with dreads. Don't argue with me about that. And also, just like white people who wear dashikis, because I see that a lot here in Oregon. You're not African, so don't do that. Just taking things from other people's culture, thinking it's cute, and then utilizing it because you want to be like woke, culturally, yada yada. I don't know, Burning Man, hashtag whatever. But yeah, that's like really, it's disrespectful, and just kind of like shitty of you to even like think you can just steal those really important aspects of brown and black and indigenous folks' culture and lives. Cultural appreciation, on the other hand, is when I engage, so there is a part of my cultural lineage that is indigenous, but it is not Native American indigenous. Or it is, and I just don't have enough to even count it, so I don't. When I talk about my indigeneity, it is indigenous Mexican, which is like a majority of Mexico is an indigenous people who got mixed in with Spanish colonialism. So sage and copal are like definitely indigenous to my culture and are a part of my culture, but I try really hard not to use it a lot because I just don't know too much about how to use it. But after chatting with this person that I purchased from, they're not on the internet. They're just a regular indigenous person, special indigenous person who sells things here in Portland. And they went out and picked Oregon sage, which is sage that is indigenous to this region in the Pacific Northwest, dried it themselves, bundled it themselves, and are selling this medicine to people to use for specific reasons. And a lot of that is just generalized spiritual practice of like meditation and mindfulness, or when you're sick and having a hard time breathing, apparently I can use the sage for that reason. But it is medicine, and it's something that like we had a very long conversation about, and just shared this knowledge together, which is honestly very special, to just get knowledge directly from the source and have permission to use that. And that's cultural appreciation, is getting permission to take part in something that is very important to someone's culture, to use it within your own spiritual practice. I want to say another piece of cultural appreciation would be the fact that, if you go to a wedding that is, very cultural, as not a person part of that culture, and they welcome you in to take part in whatever rituals or types of dress, so you can easily take part in those ceremonies. That's cultural appreciation. That's sharing or even sharing across like each other's cultures, melding them in through ceremony or ritual practice together because both of you are bringing something to the table to share. That is cultural appreciation for sure. But also this is just like my own takeaway after learning and like getting educated by people and paying people for educating me. Those are things that I've gathered, but I encourage you to, if you're a person who practices any kind of spirituality and want to like really reevaluate your usage of white sage or any types of other herbs that are indigenous medicine, or even medicine that is considered medicine in another culture, that you talk to those people and really learn about why it's being used, instead of just using it to your own means without having no concept or knowledge of like why it's being used and why it's so sacred. So do some Googling, talk to people in your community who are spiritual practitioners, and then make the decision for yourself. Cool. I just wanted to cover that because I talked about it in a previous episode, and I wanted to make sure not to forget. The next question, a lot of you asked, is what is it? Hold on, I gotta look at my notes. What is the most welcoming yarn space in Portland? I compare a lot of yarn spaces in Portland to my first love, cozy yarn shop or knit shop in Eugene, Oregon. And the sad thing about Portland is that a lot of really amazing shops have closed, because Portland is getting expensive because of gentrification, because so many reasons. So my new yarn home after rigorous search on the internet is I want to say Starlight Knitting Society, and that's in Southeast Portland on like 52nd and Rule or something. But they're really great. It's got some queer vibes. It's got some size inclusive vibes. It's got like all age inclusive vibes. The space is beautiful. The inventory is lovely. Everybody is so nice, sweet, and helpful. And it just really, really reminds me of cozy, and that's the reason why I go. I don't go very often because it's very far from where I live. I live all the way in North Portland, and Starlight is like all the way in South Portland. So and the only time I go is like when I have time after work. But usually when I'm off work, it's like 5 p.m. and it'll take me like 45 minutes to even get there via bus. So at that point, I'm like showing up at like 6 p.m. and it really sucks. So I'll go on the weekends sometimes. But lately I've just been trying to use things that are in my stash instead of going out and buying things. But Starlight is the way to go. They have this really amazing member benefit if you buy into it. And just overall amazing staff. So that's my favorite welcoming yarn space in Portland. Next is this person, well, actually a few of you even asked this because I've been talking about my yoga teacher training a lot and fundraising it for a lot, is what I listen to when I practice yoga. I am the type of person who cannot do yoga in silence. I use the Down Dog app, and it's really great because they have really nice ambiance, calm music that is really great. And then there's some music I hate music with words, y'all. It really takes me out of my practice. So the less words, the better. Sometimes when I'm not using the Down Dog app, I will just put on chill vibes on Spotify, or I just have not explosions in the sky because it's too crescendo-y for me, but just some really chill stuff. I have a random playlist that I've been cultivating over the last couple of months that have a bunch of different artists like Arbor or Tycho, or just little interludes that are really nice. I like a lot of jazz too when I do yoga, which is really nice. Yeah, cool jazz stuff. Another question y'all asked, just quite a few of you, because I also talk about these things a lot, is what my self-care practice is. So my self-care practice, of course, incorporates yoga and movement. The other half of my self-care practice is daily meditation. I meditate for 10 to 20 minutes a day. If I get 2 meditations in, then that's totally a fucking miracle. Another part of my self-care practice is playing music. I do not think I could survive life if I could not play music. It's really important to me, so I have a bunch of different outlets to play music because I'm in 4 different bands, and it's really dark in here because it just started raining. Oh my god. I'm gonna open up some stuff. Hopefully it'll make it a little brighter in here. There we go. But playing music is really important to my self-care practice. I also enjoy, of course, knitting and spinning because it's very meditative. And also just I like to take a shower at the end of the day to just shower away the day. Detangling my hair is a ritual magic practice. And it feels really good when I do it. I also just enjoy, for self-care, just spending time with my husband and my dogs, spending time with my friends and community without phones. And I also enjoy reading books that call attention and my awareness to mindfulness. And also just sci-fi books in general. Lots of reading. Yeah. My self-care practice also is ever-changing thanks to my therapist. I also go to therapy, which is really important. If you don't go to therapy or don't have access to therapy, I'm very sorry. but I think everybody should consider going to therapy. We all could benefit from therapy. And if it's a matter of cost, that's fair. But I also like to let folks know that, paying a little bit more and budgeting in for therapy, if you can, is an investment in your mental health and well-being. And that you only get one mind, you only get one body. Like, you need to really invest in that and make sure you're investing in your health, because it'll help you in the long run to continue to do all of the things that you love, be a better friend, be a better partner, and work through all of the things that you didn't know you needed to work through or confront. So yeah, therapy, 10 out of 10 would recommend. Yeah, that's my self-care practice. Very straightforward, but it took me a very long time to get into a self-care practice, and I would not have been able to take that final step if it weren't for therapy. My therapist is absolutely amazing. Yeah, it's a thing. So thankfully, those are all the questions that I have. I have no stories. I'm kind of bummed none of y'all wanted to share your knitting journey stories or anything like that. I mean, there's a few of you who did in the comments. And a lot of you want to do similar of creating a more handmade closet, or trying to knit new socks, or just attempting to knit in general, which is amazing. I really hope that you achieve those goals. I hope you sign up for McKenzie's 2020 Make Along, because it's literally great for folks who are beginners and folks who are total experience makers. Join in on that. There's a lot of really good community, and no one will shame you or anything like that. We are all very supportive. That is the episode today. Thank you all for subscribing, for supporting this podcast, for supporting me. I'm really excited to go into the new year with all of these new goals, and to be really regular with the podcast. I am definitely contemplating making a Patreon to support this podcast, because it does take me some time. I am recording this on my phone, and I would love to have better equipment to make this podcast a little bit more fun. Lighting, for instance, because I'm literally battling this rain and hailstorm, and it is making it super dark outside. Apologies. But also just it takes me some time to edit. It takes time to put it on the Facebook, things like that. So it's something that I'm thinking about. I would love your feedback on that in the comments, if you would consider supporting a Patreon of mine if I started it. But other than that, that's the episode, y'all. Thanks for watching. Continue being awesome. I hope your new year is starting off with an amazing bang, and that you receive all the blessings you deserve. See you next episode.